I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 102. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. It is the wee hours of the morning here in Denver. I am getting ready to go spend some time with family, so I'm recording these episodes before we leave, and there's a lot to do today. Packing. It's the first time flying with our little one, so that should be interesting. And I am sitting down with my coffee. My voice is still kind of the morning voice, which is annoying when I'm recording a podcast, but it is what it is. So, well, what I've got for you today is exciting. We just finished the June sprint, and the lessons learned were awesome, as always. I should back up. If you don't know about what a sprint is, if that doesn't make any sense to you, you can learn about this at velocitywork.com/sprint. Enrollment is open right now for the September sprint, and we're going to close it down mid-August because it just gives our team a lot of time to prepare. It's better for the participants. They feel prepared before they get into the month. So it's open right now. If you want to go enroll, you absolutely should if there's spots left. As you can tell, based on the beginning of this episode, I'm recording this early, so I don't know when this is released if there will be spots available or not, but definitely go there and check out. And if it lets you register, that means there is a spot. And here's what it is, essentially. You pick one big result that you're going to get done in the month of September. And every day you show up with a small group of fellow law firm owners. And every day we have a tracker we fill out, and you say, what's the one thing you're going to do this day towards your result? The next day you come back and you say, did you get it done or not? And you give a lesson learned about how you operate and how you show up, not about the world, not about the software you're using. No, it's about you, about being an owner. And then you give the one thing that day that you're going to get done. Again, towards the results. You do this every day. You just report in. And the camaraderie and the community that is built around this is so inspiring and just rich and deep and awesome. Everyone's rooting for one another. We have a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughter, but it's about getting to work. This is about helping people learn how to plan their work and work their plan on a very deep level. And it's for 1 month. And it's not about, even though it's called sprint, it's not about going fast. It's about showing up consistently and exercising this focus forward framework, which I teach. You have to be aiming for something, the project that you name that you're going to get done for the month. You have to make a really good plan, and then you have to honor your plan. And so it's you basically reporting in on how well you're doing that day after day after day after day. And at the end of it, you have strengthened a muscle that wasn't as strong prior. So anyway, you can learn more about that at velocitywork.com/sprint. Well, every time we have a sprint, what I did starting, I think in January, when the sprint was done, I started sharing some of the lessons that came out of the sprinters' mouths during the month. And I can't share all of them. There's hundreds, literally, because of all the participants giving a lesson every single day. But I sift through them and I try to categorize them, and I pull out the ones that I think would make the most sense without any context to share with you all. So I've been doing that since January, and people love them. I have people that they get in a rut where they're struggling with planning, for example. They're not doing a very good job. So they'll go back to those sprint episodes where I specifically talk about planning lessons and listen to them, because it's their peers that are doing the work, that are figuring this out and have lessons learned. So hearing that from your own fellow law firm owners who are in the trenches doing this work is really helpful to get you grounded and back on track. So these, I think, are serving the listeners, you guys, really well. I don't know if I'll keep them up. I think I will. I almost didn't do it for this month because I feel like I've released them for the last 3 sprints that we've had. And, is it still valuable for you guys? So I'll listen for feedback after this time, but gosh, when I was putting these together, the lessons are awesome. So why not share them with you? Why not help you realize what other people are realizing through the deep work that they're doing so that you can take those away, be inspired, and use them? I have them broken up into 3 categories this time: planning, honoring your plan, and then there's a miscellaneous batch of lessons that don't necessarily have anything to do with that, but they do have to do with how you operate as an owner, how you think, and they felt really valuable, and I wanted to share those with you. So 3 categories, and today we're going into planning, that category. Next week will be honoring the plan, and the week following will be the miscellaneous lessons. If you find yourself inspired, that's amazing. Go out into the world and use these lessons. And if you want to join a sprint and you want to be a part of this and you want this experience for yourself, go check out the URL I've given you so that you can see if you can still enroll. If there's space left, we would love to have you. It's a really awesome tribe. Okay, so for the planning lessons, this first one we're starting with, I love so much the way this participant worded it, and I'll say more about why. But here's the lesson. Make appropriate expectations of what you can do based on your circumstances, or you set yourself up for unfair criticism. Oh, this is so good. If you're listening to this podcast, there's a really good chance that you have a lot of unfair criticism happening in your brain about yourself. And this is one of the reasons. If you don't set yourself up to be able to win at the game, of course, you're not going to be able to do it. And so then your brain is going to have all this criticism, but it's not fair. You didn't set yourself up correctly. So I love what this person was saying. And when he's saying based on your circumstances, it means just based on your reality. What is happening? What is possible? When you plan your week, for instance, are you undercutting the events that you put on your calendar? It's not really enough time. Should be. Your brain thinks it should be, but it's not. Then you screw your day up by setting yourself up that way. But also just a project timeline and time frame. People do this on a bigger scale with things. Usually it's because they don't break it down small enough and they think that they're right. They think that it should only take, a month to be able to do this project or implement this system or whatever. But they don't know that. And there's no way to know for sure. But your job is to really look at things and make things math as much as possible. So break down the steps and then assign how long do you think each step will take. And if you still aren't sure, the step needs to be broken down smaller. So this is important because otherwise we get ourselves into a space, if we don't plan well, we get ourselves into this scenario that we never could have won. And then we beat ourselves up for it. It's not fair. You have to stop doing that to yourself because that creates a cycle that isn't helpful to actually achieving the results you want to achieve. You have to cut that out. It's pointless and it slows down the process because of the hypercritical thinking that's happening. It's unfair criticism. Okay, I loved that one. I thought you guys would too. Second lesson, once I get through the initial discomfort of sitting down and mapping out a plan, I can always rely on it getting easier. This is just like all you have to do is get your shoes on and step outside the door. Then it's so much easier to actually go for the run, right? It's the same thing. Once you get through the initial discomfort of just sitting down and starting, it's always easier. The more you put on your calendar, the easier it is to follow. Okay, so here's why I put this lesson in for the podcast episode. I think sometimes we think the less we put on our calendar, the easier it's going to be to follow. That's logical to think that, but it's not the way it works. Most times, most people find that when they have this positive pressure, so to speak, if they've really done it well and done it right, and they are allotting the right amount of time for each thing, once they schedule it, there's some positive pressure that's created that you need to stay on point. You can't get distracted. You can't allow yourself to sink into something that wasn't planned because you have some things to get done. And it is possible, but you got to stay on track. So the more you put on your calendar, the easier it is to follow. That's if you're being fair with your times. Break it down, write it down. Be as specific as possible in the Monday map because it's more efficient. The more I can figure stuff out ahead of time, the more efficiently I can get stuff done. Yes, I totally Totally agree with this. This is everything I teach. It's just in this participant's words, which I really appreciate hearing it in different ways from different people. But the reason I put this lesson in here is because this participant is explaining the skill of being able to break something down because they know it's more efficient. So they're using this with Monday Map in their example, but this could be broader. This could be reverse engineering from something much greater. It is a skill to be able to do this, and it takes practice. It's not something that you're either good at or you're not. It's something you learn and you practice. And the better you get at it, the more efficiently you tend to run. Things are going to go off track sometimes, or something unexpected will come up. And that's okay, as long as I followed through, put in the effort I said I was going to, and I'm not using that as an excuse. The way I know whether I'm justifying it or if I actually put in an honest effort is when I leave it all in the field, I feel proud. And when I don't, ... So I loved this. I think that's a really good way to say that, because the plans aren't going to go perfectly sometimes, but it is about the effort. It is about you doing what you could to stay on track. And the difference is that feeling of pride at the end of the day, because you know you gave it your all. You left it all on the field. You did what you could, and you feel really good about that. You know you're doing it right. Break it down so small that you can't fail. Because sometimes I use having a big, lofty goal that isn't broken down as an excuse to not get it done. Yes. People will distract themselves with the idea of bigger goals, but they will never achieve those goals. And one big barrier is that there is no path forward. They haven't thought that through. Yes, they want to get there, but then they just go at it. And they'll typically fall short, or typically it's not as good as it could have been. And so they're never really setting themselves up to achieve it if they even start. It's so hard to start if you don't know your first steps. So I loved what they said here is just break it down so small that you can't fail. So that, if you have this goal, you have this project completion thing that you want to get done, then you have to work backwards, figure out the next steps that are so small that it's no big deal to take them, but you are on your way, right? That's what it takes. Doing my Monday Map gives me control and a sense of calm for my week. Yes, that is what happens. And if any of you here are new to Monday Map, or you don't know what we're talking about, you can go to velocitywork.com and get a free guide for Monday Map. But it's essentially a way for you to plan out your week so that you're very intentional with your time. And then your job is to honor the plan, and that's what's coming up next in terms of a topic. But the guide will help you get your bearings with it, and it's never easy. So when this person says, doing my Monday Map gives me control and a sense of calm for the week, well, that's because they've practiced it. It doesn't always feel like that right away, but that's part of the deal. You have to get into it, get your groove with it. It's a waste of time to move forward with a project if you are not prepared. Don't kid yourself that you're prepared when you're not. Carve out the time to prepare. I put this in the planning group of lessons because that's part of planning really well, is thinking through this stuff. When are you going to need time for preparation? When are you going to need time for research is another thing that's often missed. People don't put on their calendar. It's like they don't carve out time for it, but they need it. And they didn't think that through. This is the same thing. Preparation for a meeting. I mean, I'm huge on preparations before you walk into meetings. You don't want to waste someone else's time. And I'm talking about internal meetings that you have with your team. If you walk in there and then you're just going to figure out what you're going to say in the meeting, that's typically not a good strategy. It wastes your time and it wastes theirs. You should know what needs to be said when you go in. You should know what questions you need answers to, et cetera, et cetera. There's preparation there. And sometimes it only takes 5 minutes to prep, but still you got to do it. If it's squeezed out, it's going to cause problems. So preparation time, no matter what it's for, a presentation, a client meeting, an internal team meeting, any of that, preparation time is important. So don't scrap it and don't kid yourself that you're ready when you're really not. You have to carve out the time. It's unrealistic to plan working on the business on trial days. I put this in here because I see so often clients and participants of the sprint really start to understand that they do not set themselves up to win. They don't plan fairly. They don't plan in a way that's actually possible. When they have a big effort, so going to trial, for example, or anything where you have to show up and really deliver, you should make the rest of the day so light. I would even argue that you should make the rest of the day where, of course, you can get some things done, but there's nothing planned that you have to get done. It's just a window of time that maybe you focus on a certain topic area, or you respond and do some more brainless work, fire off emails or make some phone calls you've been needing to make, like getting done the tasks that don't require some heavy cognitive lifting. That's the best thing to do. And so all of my clients who are trial attorneys or in court a lot, that's a part of the deal, that what they've learned is that they have to plan their time well and don't expect big things out of themselves once they wrap that stuff up in the day. And sometimes, depending on how heavy the event was, so if it was a big trial, then how about for a day after or 2 days after, there's nothing on your calendar, literally nothing. You make sure of it. Putting the time estimate next to each task on your to-do list as you go makes planning the week less daunting. This is a step that so many people skip when they start Monday Map. Even clients that I've had around for a while, they somehow fall into this habit of skipping this step. And every time they come back and they start doing it again, they're so grateful that they did it. So don't skip putting the time estimates next to each task that you have written down that needs to be scheduled in your calendar. It's an important step. And even I have had some clients that are like, well, I just schedule the right amount of time when I'm scheduling it into my calendar. The whole point of writing it next to each thing is because then you can look at your list and you can start to pull together these smaller tasks that have 5 minutes written next to each one of them. We could pull, 4 to 6 of those together, put the appropriate time amount on your calendar, and then drop those tasks into the event. And then you're done. Instead of having all these little events on your calendar, or instead of guessing, like you're looking at those 6 things and you're like, that should take me 20 minutes, when really you needed 30. If you just would have thought it through, you actually needed 10 extra minutes to complete all of those well and tie them up with a bow. But instead, we cut ourselves short. It's just poor planning. So it helps a lot with planning so that when you go to your calendar, you don't have to think very hard at all. You know how long each thing is going to take and you assign the appropriate slot for it. Okay, and there's one final one. I didn't know if I should put this in planning or in the miscellaneous category, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in the planning one for today. So the lesson is I should use my free time for activities that get me in the zone. I think this lesson is important, especially this participant. It was important for them. It was a realization through experience that they had, and so they documented it. This is important because sometimes we use our free time to buffer or do things that aren't really fulfilling. It's almost just like we check out mentally in a way that doesn't produce something positive for ourselves. Now, I am all for vegging out on the couch if that's like what I know I want to do with my time. But the truth is that when you can plug into activities that get you in the zone, it's so much better. There's something about getting in the zone that's actually very restful, especially if there's no pressure associated with it. Like I have a lot of clients that will do hobby kind of things. They will do puzzles. They will actually go for a run where they really get in the zone. Some will play board games, some will draw or paint. Some will just go for a long walk in nature. I have one client that loves to make jewelry, so that's what she does with herself. You can read fiction books, but something enjoyable that lets you get into the zone is so healthy for you. It's so healthy to rejuvenate you. And it doesn't mean there's not periods of time where you're just resting fully, just vegging out. Or, I have one client that goes out in nature in his big RV on the weekends. I've never seen it, but I've seen the inside of it because sometimes he'll do calls from that. But that's like his reprieve. And so I think it's important to have the things that really let you be creative and you drop into the zone mentally speaking and cognitively speaking. And then, of course, there's times where free time just to veg out. Of course, you can have some of that. But what I loved about this lesson is that using some of your free time for activities that get you in the zone is so healthy. And most of us don't do that just automatically. Most of the people I encounter and we talk about, what do you do outside of work? Sometimes people have hobbies that they say almost immediately. And sometimes people are like, I don't know. Do people do something outside of just work and veg? And I get that. I feel like at times I have been that person, but now I have these activities I know that I drop into that's really useful and helpful for me. So reading fiction is one, going for long walks is another. Now that I have a kid, that to me is the most present I can be. And so it does let me drop in the zone. If I am really, on the floor with my kid, it is rejuvenating. There's something rejuvenating about it. And then, of course, I have times where I'm vegging out. But I wanted to just offer that to anyone who doesn't feel like they have any activities that there's zero pressure on that lets them drop into a zone, so to speak. And it's a really beautiful thing and it's very rejuvenating. So try some things out. Play with that. Is it a puzzle? Is it a board game? Is it a sport? Is it drawing or art? Is it music? I don't know a lot about music, so that's never been my thing. But for some people, that is their jam. So what is it for you? And make sure that you set aside some of the free time, even if it's a short amount of time, to drop in. It helps you round out as a person. And with you being rounded out as a person, it makes the whole journey of doing what you're doing and building what you're building, the life that you want to build and the firm that you want to build, it's much more sustainable if you round out as a person. And so having some of this is very important. Clients do realize it very consistently. And this one actually happened to be a sprint lesson, so I thought I would share it with you. All right, everybody. That is the planning category of the sprint lessons from June. So proud of these participants, and what comes out of their mouths sometimes just blows me away. The wisdom that's in the lessons that they learn. And it's just because of the experience. They're really learning through experience. And that is the coolest. All right, everybody. I'll see you next week for the lessons around honoring the plan. Hey there. If you enjoyed this podcast, I highly recommend you come and check out Mastery Group. It is where owner attorneys come together to study this material, apply it, and thus create really big results for their firm and for their life. So come on over, velocitywork.com/join to get more information and get started. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.